Hi, guys, it's Laura. Welcome to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Paris. Paris Turner is a beauty, business, and relationship coach who delivers entertaining talks and speeches that challenge audiences to level up and focus their attention on what matters most in life. She has received numerous awards for her work in justice causes and advocacy. Her strong background in leading, speaking, and her life experience make her uniquely qualified to talk about a variety of topics. Paris is also a poet and can make up a poem about you on the spot. She also considers herself an animal whisperer and a closet nerd. So, welcome, Paris. I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on your podcast.
I know, I'm so excited. So, Paris and I have connected because we have some shared experiences with narcissistic relationships. And so we got to talking, and she's going to share some places she's been with relationships and how maybe we can move forward and have a much better life, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree. I
make
mean,
some great
if any
choices.
person, yeah, I mean, if you've ever had any experience with any person with NPD or NPD qualities, you know how miserable they can make your life, or it's not even necessarily them being present. Sometimes it's the mental and emotional scars that leave
Yes.
you just constantly thinking about the situation for years on end. So, yeah, I mean, I have experience with narcissistic relationships. Not that I'm proud of that, but I
Right.
actually yeah, I grew up. I mean, I feel like I was groomed into a
Yeah.
certain type of belief set about myself.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm
And
not
what
gonna
is, and
identify
what, well, I mean, what is that? That you just, so you had low self-esteem or,
low self-esteem, low confidence. I mean, from childhood, everything about me was constantly dismantled every single day. I was told how unwanted I was, how
yeah.
unlovable I was, how unattractive I was, ugly, all sorts of things. And I mean, I grew up under that sort of oppression for years,
Yeah.
verbal abuse actually. And, it left mental and emotional scars. I was
Mhm.
a tore up person. Like I didn't really have a fighting chance, and
Right.
so that led me into other relationships with people who had those same type of tendencies,
Mhm.
because a part of me didn't know what healthy love looked like. Because,
Yeah.
for me, love was associated with, after I tear you down, I might cook you a meal. And that's
Okay.
not healthy,
No.
because people should apologize. Sometimes it's verbalizing what you did wrong and making amends.
Right.
So that was a little bit of my upbringing, but that prepared me for more narcissistic relationships. I was in a church for a short bit of time with a pastor that was narcissistic, to say the least. And I'm not saying that everybody in my life is narcissistic, because I've met a lot of
Right.
wonderful people. But it's like when you look at a bag of apples, if something's rotten, it really stands out.
I want to comment on that because recently when I was talking to my therapist, I'm like, is everyone a narcissist? And she said, no. And I'm like, are you sure? But I think once we start healing, we become aware
Hmm.
of the negative things around us and also what we've allowed. And
Hmm.
so, yes, it just becomes more heightened. And I have to say, I'm the same way. I'm very loving and giving and didn't have very high self esteem. And even though people think I'm such a bubbly personality and whatever, oh, this is taking a lot of work. I did not get here overnight. And that's very attractive to, and you had mentioned NPD. So NPD is narcissistic personality disorder, which is a diagnosis. And
Yeah, it
not,
is a diagnosis.
and not everyone has the diagnosis, but
Well, most think that they're perfect, so they're never going to go to a
well,
therapist in
no,
the first
they're
place.
not going to. No, they are not. But I know that when I started, like, I feel like I have a degree in narcissism at this point. But I know that one thing I saw online, because that means it's real, is that they said, don't keep trying to label your ex or whatever, right? It's like it doesn't matter what the label is. There's an issue here. so,
Mhm.
so I just thought that was funny. Anyway, so continue with all the people around you feeling
Yeah.
like they're all narcissists.
I went through that. I had this like whole moment in my life where everything and everyone was a narcissist. Because once you see the signs, like you see it in everything. And so
Yeah.
even like little small things that people do who are, they don't have that sort of diagnosis,
Yes.
you can tend to just like, for me, I was very dramatic about it. I over dramatized like everything. I'm like, that's a narcissist. He gaslighted me.
Red flag, red flag, red flag.
No, no, no.
That's
Like, get
hilarious.
away from me. But like seriously, I went through that whole phase because
That's
once it's
hilarious.
it's almost like when you get a car, like when you get a new car and you
Yeah.
have your car, and then all of a sudden you see everybody with that car.
Yes. Oh my
You're like,
gosh, you are
wait a
so
minute.
right. Yes.
But it's kind of like that. Like you see it all everywhere
Yeah.
once your eyes are open to it. And so that was I had that experience, but what really like opened my eyes to like what this mental disorder was, because I didn't even think it was a mental disorder. See, that's how, conditioned I was to
Yeah. Oh
abuse.
no. Oh no, me
Yeah,
either. Me either.
because I thought like certain things were just normal. And so, but I remember like not feeling right about certain things. And so I was in a relationship for a few years, and that relationship just destroyed me. I mean, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. First of all, I was young. I was in my early 20s. I didn't have a lot of life experience.
Hmm.
And I met someone who was like twice my age, and there's a term called love bombing that a narcissist person, a person
Yeah.
with MPD or qualities,
Yeah.
they'll do. So they'll shower you with love and affection. Pretty much what they do is they put you on this pedestal, and they build you up and they build you up and they build you up. And pretty
Yeah.
soon you're like, oh, I'm on Mount Everest, like heads all big, like
Right.
they love me. I'm the best thing next to sliced bread.
Right.
So they can kick that little pedestal down. Once they build it up, then they kick it down.
Yeah.
And so there was a cycle I went through because I didn't know what it was. There's a cycle, and it's called love bombing, which is when they shower you with affection, then
Okay.
devaluing when they tear you down, and everything that they liked about you before is suddenly a problem. And then
Yes.
the discard. So breaking up or, running away, starting fights and leaving for days. That's what they love to do.
Hmm.
And so I was in this cycle. And so when it becomes a cycle, it becomes addicting because you're psychologically, your mind becomes addicted to the good times or the pleasurable times.
Yes.
And then when the bad times come again, you crave, almost like craving a drug or craving
Yeah.
sugar or sweets. You crave those good times. So it creates something called a trauma bond. And people can stay stuck in this loop for years because, we gaslight ourselves by thinking, oh, it's going to get better again.
Yeah.
And it will. But usually the
Yeah.
times are brief and brief and brief and brief until you realize like, man, there's no fun with this person. Nothing about being in a relationship is pleasurable. But after I left, like I still didn't know that this person had MPD. And
Okay.
after I left, it was years of, there's this term called post-separation abuse, which is where a person will continue to abuse you, whether that be, stalking, like literal stalking. I had this
Right.
person hiring private detectives, their friends to follow me, like
Jeez
serious stuff,
Louise.
constant stalking on social media, showing up at your job, showing up at places where they know you frequent to harass you, to intimidate you, starting, there's this term called smear campaign,
Yeah.
where they create a campaign. So they go around to all the people that and they just talk bad about you in hopes
Right.
that people won't like you anymore.
Right.
And so for years, I mean, years on end, I dealt with this. And, I would think to myself, like, what did I ever do to deserve this?
Hmm.
But I also think back to the moment when I met that person. I had like, if I ever had a gut feeling in my life, it was that day. Something in my
Wow.
gut was like, do not go with him. And I was so dumb. I was like young. I was like, well, why gut? Let me figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I
We have
do
to
not
test the
question.
yes, exactly. We have to test the waters.
Yeah.
Well, as somebody who was in it, I say in it like I was in prison. I was in for 33 years.
Yes. You got out
I got out.
for good behavior.
That's right. Well, for 30, I was in it for 33 years because I lived off those stupid crumbs of, oh, it's good today. Oh, and and yesterday it was good, and then maybe the next day would be good, and things would be good, but that it's because I read that your brain is just keeps trying to get back to the good time, but then they go back to the bad time. And so then you keep living off of that. Well, it was good at one point. So, even though it's a disorder and they have, a disordered mind, I just always wonder, like, come on, like, how to behave yourself sometimes.
They do. That's why I don't feel sorry for them. Like when something bad happens, they know how to behave themselves. If they can put it on for police, if they can put it on for,
Anything.
teachers and other
Yeah.
people, they know what they're
They
doing.
can put it on for their friends because my ex has his whole, thing of friends, but I think they're all narcissists too. So,
Well,
uh,
it's like birds of a feather.
that's right. And so I'm like, so you do have the capability to
They
be
do.
nice.
They do, but they choose not to. And
Yeah.
the ironic part is like it's suffering alone because a lot of times what ends up
Yeah.
happening is that they don't abuse everybody. The thing is, when people think
Yeah.
that they're charismatic and great, it's because they are putting on a show and people are
Yeah.
genuinely impressed by their charisma, by their charm. But
Yeah.
behind closed doors is the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and you see a completely different side. Because they don't know how to emotionally regulate within themselves. They can't
Right.
go, I had a bad day, I'm feeling bad, let me exercise or, self-care bubble bath.
Right.
They go, I had a bad day, it's your fault. Let me mess
Right.
with you and now I'm
Yeah.
gonna hide your stuff and I want to
Right.
burn this,
If you made more money, I wouldn't have to be so stressed out at work or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
insert something ludicrous here that you have no control over. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
So
Like there was always a problem. And I hated that kind of thing where it's like you never know what you're going to get, when when they get
it's
home
a bag of mixed nuts. Like I got
because
a
they're nuts.
pecan today, a peanut tomorrow.
Well, and that's the thing is, I know that there's a pattern, right? There's a because when you're out, and I just remember we would go out, and it's like everything's great. Oh my gosh, we're having the best time, and then like even on just the way home, oh, here's all the things you did wrong, and now he would tell me all the things I did wrong, and I'd be like, what? I don't remember. It's
It's
like,
probably what they did wrong. It's something that they do called projection. And so they
yeah,
have a hard time in their little brain. Everything they do is perfect. And
yeah,
if they make a mistake, oh, no, 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 I didn't make that mistake. Let's rewrite history. You made that mistake. Now
yeah,
you must be punished and you must take the blame. And
yeah.
it's the weirdest thing because, a lot of innocent people get hurt. But once you
Hmm.
realize that someone's projecting on you and it's not your fault, like,
Yeah,
that was something we were talking about the other day. So you just let it roll off your shoulder. Like I don't even take it personally. I'm like, I'm dumb, and the grass is green on some
right.
days, and then sometimes it turns blue, and then sometimes it turns purple. Because I don't
Mhm.
know. Like I just go along with it. But it took years to get to that place. Like I'm not saying that this is something that happened overnight. Like I spent
No,
years crying, years in therapy, years probably driving my friends insane talking about the situation. Like, I'm pretty sure I burnt out some friends.
I know.
And, now just to realize I spent all that time crying for what? I can't get that time back. Like, I have literal years I wasted of my life because I was so hurt. I couldn't go out. I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep. And then now to be in this place, like, I see people because when you realize, yeah, a lot of people are narcissistic, but then you realize, dang, I got to deal with a lot of people on a daily basis. And so that's where that not taking it personal comes in.
Yeah,
You know,
because
I just,
you can't hide, right? You
mhm,
can't hide. I want to go back to something real quick that you were talking about how charismatic they are, and so that makes it hard then to be able to like tell your story, right? And for maybe people to believe you, or because sometimes I felt like just the crabby, naggy wife
mhm,
when if somebody maybe would have noticed, but I don't know that anybody else knew, like,
mhm,
oh, this is a
mhm.
problem. Like you're constantly talking about like he doesn't change, he doesn't change, he doesn't change. So it's hard. I don't know. Talk to me about sharing and like did you ever feel like you could talk to people or in your relationships at all?
I mean, it was difficult because like they go after every relationship. It's not just your friends, and it's
Okay.
not just when you break up either. When you really realize what you're dealing with, they've been working on the perception of people since you probably first met, dropping
Yeah.
little seeds and oh, I'm not sure about them, or oh, they can act a little crazy sometimes, and then create a
Yes.
situation to prove you crazy, which is
Yes.
insane. But when you're in that
Yeah.
situation, it's hard. Really, you have to, it's almost like if you have friends and they don't see that that person's a problem and you've explained it,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you got to understand that this person's already been, the campaign has worked. This
Yeah.
person's mind has been warped. And the thing is, when they abuse, they don't leave behind bruises. I mean, it's mental scars, emotional scars. You
Yeah.
can't quantify that. You can't go, oh, there's a mark on you right there.
Right.
But in those instances, I would say you got to reach out for professional help, like
Yeah.
people who have experience, either life coaches, therapists,
Yeah.
police officers, lawyers, different people who may have experience in that type of behavior. Because when you get a third party, they're not connected. So what do they have to lose by believing your story? But a
Right.
lot of times when you're in it, it's hard, to really have family who's going to believe your story, because then that's when they want to show up as Mr. Wonderful or Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And that's when they
Yeah.
want to show, oh, look, I bought them flowers. Why are they so mad? But they do it in grand ways that the whole family sees, like, wow, look at this person. Like, why
Yeah.
are you so angry? It's not that bad, but it really is that bad.
Right.
So a lot of times, like I used to just say, throw the whole group away. Like if you got friends and they don't believe you, throw the whole group away.
Yeah.
Because if your friends can't believe you that you're being abused,
Yeah.
and actually, there's times where I've had friends and they're like, oh, this person's abusive. I'm like, I haven't seen that. But let me give you resources.
Yes.
Can you make a journal? Can you make like points of when this happened, and let's discuss it? Like create a plan for your friends, because sometimes too, people when they're being abused, they don't always know, or they don't even have the language for it. Like there's been
Right.
times I've been abused and I didn't even know what stonewalling was, or gaslighting was, or
Any of that.
word salad, like all these terms. Like I hope you guys never have to learn this, but if you do,
Right.
there were so many terms that I'm like, oh, that was abuse. So that person was playing a game on me. So it's almost like you really just have to throw the whole group away,
Yeah.
just find people who are going to support you, find people who understand. Because I was at a point, I was like, you know what? My friends don't and I don't mean like literally like don't throw away a good friendship, but in
Right.
a sense of like find a new support group. If your
Yes.
friends are not hearing you, seek out. There's Google, there's YouTube.
Yeah.
Trust me, there are so many sources. Like,
There's so
you,
many, and there's so
yeah.
many groups. There's so many groups on, even on, like, say, Facebook or something. There's groups where people are talking about it because we are not alone, and that's the biggest thing, is that we're not alone. And why I wanted to talk about these kind of relationships, because my eyes have been open. Because even after my divorce, I didn't know anything. I just thought we got a divorce, but
Mhm.
then I found out. You know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, my eyes are open. Oh, I've been abused. And not to be like, oh, I need to put a label on myself. No, the veil came off my eyes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what's been happening. Why I felt like the worst wife in the world for 33 years. Like, I mean, seriously, I really just thought, well, we just can't work out these issues.
Mhm.
Nope, we were never going to work out those issues.
Because the thing is, they're always going to have issue, no
It
matter what
was
it is. Like,
always issue. And I was being discarded for so long because he had other ones waiting in the wings. So that was the hard thing too. And we haven't even talked about that, but we can get there or not get there, whatever. It doesn't matter. They always got somebody waiting.
they do. They call it a harem. They usually have their harem of women waiting.
Well, they can't be alone because they might have to look at themselves.
They need supply. Like for them, I've seen people like this who there's like people out there who have a sick, twisted sense of like emotionally fulfilling themselves, instead of like, I'm gonna go jog and I feel good. Like they
Yeah.
only feel good when they're tearing somebody else down.
Yeah.
And so like that whole idea of like, oh, they have a roster, they have this, like,
Hmm.
these people, like they need a roster, they need supply, because that's how they feel good about themselves. So they
Yeah.
got to have someone who's, a kissing their butt, blowing their head up,
Yeah.
inflating ego. So
Yep.
that's what supply is. So, when you start figuring it out and you're no longer giving them the attention and the love, then
Yeah.
that's when they go, oh, wait a minute, the supply is running. I'm not getting the compliments. I'm not Mr. Amazing. I'm not this. So
Yeah.
now I gotta go find all these other people. And so, I mean, they'll groom supply for years. They'll have relationships for years.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just unfortunate that you had to go through that. But I mean,
Well,
it's
I've learned a lot, and that's why I'm doing this podcast. I will say it, I think every episode I've said it, because I will no longer feel alone, and
Mhm,
I don't want anyone else to feel alone in this, because when I found out, I felt really dumb. I
mhm,
really did. I felt I was like I was bamboozled. And there's a lot of shame. Okay, look, I haven't talked to anybody who's been married longer than I have. Not that there aren't people out there. 30 I was married 32 years, but we were together 33, and everything he's doing to the new supply, he would did with me, because
mhm,
my kids are like, they're doing this, and I'm like, yeah, we did that. You know what I mean? Like it's part of the narcissist handbook.
mhm. Yeah, they
It's
don't
like
have any new moves.
they
They
don't
just
have any new moves. You know what I mean? Like they're running to the altar. We ran to the altar. You know what I mean? Like he's got to
oh,
lock
they're
it.
trying
He's got
to
to
lock
lock.
her down.
He's
Yeah,
got
he's
to
trying to
lock her
trap
down.
her.
Before the mask comes off and she
Yeah.
really sees what's going on. And it's just, I don't know. To me, that's why I don't want anyone else to feel that they're alone, or that they feel crazy,
Mhm,
because that's how I felt. I felt like literally I felt insane at
mhm,
the July of 22, which was right before we were getting divorced. I wanted to go check myself into a mental hospital, because I was like, everything I think and do it feels weird, it's off, and my ex tells me that I'm wrong. It didn't happen that way, and so I just believed him. I was still just believing him. I
mhm,
just believed him. And I remember that feeling. I felt really bad. It's
mhm.
terrible. Anyway.
Yeah, a lot of times they control the narrative for so long. And, you know, when you trust someone, you wouldn't
Yes.
think those things, like you really don't think twice. But a lot of times in those situations, it's almost like, like we were saying, something, it just doesn't seem right. Like you got to trust those little hunches that you have
Yeah.
and follow those hunches, because when you really seek inside of yourself,
Yeah.
we have all the knowledge and intuition that we need to guide our lives.
Yes.
And so, a lot of times, like, I'll meet people sometimes. I mean, I can smell, I sniff it out. I'm over here like Scooby Doo pulling mask off, like it's the real monster.
Oh my gosh, like Scooby Doo. That's so funny.
Seriously, that's how I feel like narcissism is. They're over here looking like who's the monster, and is really just the person. Like when you
Right.
unmask.
Exactly. Just like on Scooby Doo.
Yeah, like literally. So I mean, I could sniff it out with people. And a lot of times, like I'll get an intuition, and sometimes too, like I'll have dreams about people. Like I really pay attention to my dreams. Like
Yeah.
I've identified like a few narcissistic people in my life, and there's usually two scenarios that I have. And I don't know, I'm into like, spiritual type of stuff.
Yeah.
But usually it's a dream of someone fighting me. Like if they're fighting me, I'm like,
Okay.
oh, this is not my friend.
Oh.
Yeah, this is my opponent. And then dreams, it's weird because every single person in my life that I've identified as a narcissist, I would have a dream of them stealing my ID card.
Oh, interesting. So that's
And the
stealing
thing
your
about
identity.
narcissism is they don't have a sense of self. They
Yes.
usually go after the best, the brightest, the most talented. They're not going after weak people, because what are they going to get from someone who doesn't make them look good? They go
Right.
after people who have something to offer. They study you. They want your whole personality, because the thing is they're just like a shell of a person. They have
Yeah.
this mask that they're always trying to impress people. They don't know how to show up authentically. So they have this mask and they study
Mhm.
you and they copy you, and then you'll see them in another scenario like, I said that. That's my story. This didn't
Yeah.
happen to you. Like literally, quite literally, these people will take your story and act like it happened to them. It's a severe thing. It's like, have you seen that movie Single White Female?
Yes.
Seeing the girl like literally stole her whole, that's how they are. That's how they
Yes.
are. They will copy everything that you do because they don't have, they don't want to put in the work. They want
Right.
microwave results. They put in all their time into scheming and plotting on people instead of working and improving themselves.
It doesn't make
So,
sense. Well,
yeah.
I mean, it does make sense. Once you get into it, it does make sense, because
Mhm.
everything takes effort, though the amount of effort they put into this stuff, you know what I mean? And even when I said to my therapist, I said, "Why didn't he just leave me?" And she goes, "Oh, he never would have left. You had to be the one who was leaving.
Mhm.
He would have stayed forever until which is what happened until I got sick of everything,
Mhm.
and if I just think about it, I'm like, would he have still been with that girl? And what if I would have caught him then I leave? And it's like, I'm glad it all happened after that I found out, because I don't know what I would have done. This is how women snap. That's how I feel.
I agree. I was there. I was there. I was having my J Lo enough type of moment.
Yes, exactly.
Like, wait a minute. Let me think about some stuff.
One of the things that you said was talking about when someone says, I think I'm being abused, and you took the time to go, well, I didn't see that, but, tell me about it or whatever. And if you don't feel like you can handle it, helping them make a plan. Because I know that I had people who, when I started to figure it out, I'm like, I think I was abused. And
Mhm,
then, now I know more and more. And now I, can say confidently I was, but I was like, I don't know. And they would, a couple people were like, are you sure? And it's like, that's not our job. Our job is not to be like, are you sure that you
mhm,
were? Because I don't know. That to me sounded very victim shaming,
It is. It reminds
Yeah.
me of like, being in a hospital and you're saying you're in pain and someone telling you you're not. Like, how do you know? Like, you're not
Yes,
in my
exactly.
body.
Well, and that's the thing, is that because emotional abuse is so, the scars are not visible, and that's the hard thing. And I've talked about this on multiple episodes, because it's hard, because even one friend who's saying she was physically abused, he didn't physically abuse her hardly ever. So,
Mhm.
but she was abused for 20 years, so
Yeah.
it's like,
But it's
so
still abuse.
it's
It's still
still
considered
abuse,
domestic violence. It's weird
it's,
because, it's on the domestic violence will, like,
oh,
emotional
okay.
abuse. But if you were to call the police, because there's a will of abuse, the domestic violence will of abuse, and then they have the post-separation will of abuse. You can
Oh,
Google.
okay.
And emotional abuse is a part of it. But if a police officer were to come, because I've had this exact situation happen to me, you can't explain emotional scarring or this
I
person they
know.
smashed my laptop or did this. They only go by what's physically there. Like, what is the evidence that you
Yeah.
have? And so I know sometimes, like, when people like myself, like, what really helped me come to grips was journaling. When I started journaling, and
Yes.
also meditating, like, it was something that awakened inside of me. I remember clearly, like, being in that relationship and just telling myself it's going to be okay, waiting for the good moments to happen. And like, there was a time where I was outside just meditating, and something started telling me, like, this is not the life that you were meant to live.
That's
This is
awesome.
not, like, this person's abusive. Just because they're not leaving scars on you doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're not being abused. And then there was a moment where I saw that person standing there, and it was almost like I had this moment, like it reminded me of my childhood. It's almost like I could see the person in my childhood who abused me, like,
Yeah.
same characteristics, is doing the exact same thing. And I was like, I get it now.
Yes.
I'm repeating a cycle that I had already been a part of. And so, like, after that, I was like, I gotta go, I gotta get out of here. And so I left. And one thing you never do when you leave, you gotta have a game plan, which is
Yes.
what I didn't know at the time. I tried to be rational. I go, oh, it's just not working. Let me get my stuff together and I'll leave this house. And it was no, it was World War III when I decided to
Oh.
leave. It was very difficult. The person was having me set up to be arrested, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when these relationships are very challenging. And so, I mean, even just recounting that part of my story, I realized, like, when you really leave these people, they know. Like, it's interesting too, because if they don't know,
Yeah.
they will hire someone. And if they don't have the money, they
Yeah.
will, like, literally sell their left kidney to make sure that they punish you. Like, that's how severe some of them are. And I'm not saying all, because some of them
Yeah.
just leave when they figure, oh, there's nothing else to get out of this, so let me just go on to the next person. But
Yeah.
if they feel like there's something to gain from it, and it's
Yeah.
usually the ones who are more severe in the NPD
Yeah.
scale. It's like a scale. And,
Okay.
there's like low grade and then there's high grade. The person I was dealing with was very high grade, more on the like scale of like psychopath, sociopath type of vibes.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I didn't know. And so I
Yeah.
dealt with that for years, because they can't accept rejection. They can't accept no. They can't accept that they're not the center of somebody else's life or story. And
Right.
better yet, they can't stand not having control over a person. So all of
Yeah.
that for years was all of it was just trying to gain control over my life in some way, whether it was, I can't have you, so I'm going to control your relationship. I'm going to make everybody hate you. Oh,
Right.
I can't have you, so I'm going to control your finances. You think you want to do better on your own? Well, I'm going to go to your business and, spread all this crap about you and get you fired. So it's a power and control thing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it takes a lot of courage. And I want to say the best thing you can do is speak up about your experience.
Yeah.
Like don't be afraid to be the squeaky wheel, because somebody needs to hear it. There are so many people who are in relationships being abused and they just think it's okay. Or they just think,
Right.
oh, well, this person, they pay the bills or they have control of this. And I mean, I'm here to tell you, like, you can make a life for yourself. You don't have to be someone's emotional punching bag, someone's doormat,
Right.
and to trust yourself and to get, outside opinions, because, I would say third party opinions, because a lot of times our family, our closest friends, they only see one side and they've been seeing the
Yeah.
charismatic side for years. And so you got to like go to a third party who can validate, like, okay, yeah, I see that, like that makes sense, because sometimes people can get clouded in their judgment
Yeah.
emotionally when they go, oh, well, I see them and they're always happy and the kids are always playing and this and that.
Right.
But yeah, so, having someone else validate your experience, like now you get to be the validator because you open up your mouth and you
Right.
said, I was abused and it was not okay.
Right. And it's true because they are charismatic. And I think we were talking about this earlier. They're very charismatic. So it was very easy, especially for the smear campaign. I can't imagine he did very much work because he was already so charismatic to everybody and everything. And he was telling everybody that this is also why they get new supply so fast, is because then it shows that I was the problem, right? Not him or whatever, right? Not the person who was doing the abuse. They weren't the problem because look, I have a new girlfriend, everything's great, I'm great.
Mhm.
And that type of thing to me is hard, and why I think talking to friends, even to say like, I don't know, even if you don't think you're abused, but like, gosh, he's just nothing's ever good at home. I know you see him happy at church or whatever, but nothing's ever good at home, that kind of thing. And trying to figure that out. And they don't usually want to go to therapy.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, not individual therapy. That's for,
Yeah, they want to go to, the only way they'll go to therapy, and I'm not saying the only way, like if
yeah,
they get court ordered, they will go.
right.
But
And we went to marriage counseling, but there was nothing wrong. It was always something wrong with me. And
yeah.
I needed to get on meds or something because I really was having a really hard time in life. And
Mhm.
I was like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, and then the therapist just becomes the third party, the other person that they get to loop into the drama and
Yeah.
hoodwink all over again. And they get a lot of pleasure out of that. Like there's something called a narcissist smirk, or I've heard the term called duper's delight. When someone dupes someone, they know they're getting away
Oh,
with it, they have that slight smirk. And you see a lot when they know they're getting away, like when they know they're manipulating a situation, that
yeah.
slight little smirk will come out.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's they live for that, yeah.
It, it's just, it's wild and it's hard yeah, it's hard to manage that. It's hard, but I know for me that I've just felt like a complaining wife rather than seeing like what was going on. But really, look, I was married so long ago. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't all these things. There weren't podcasts, things to talk about these kind of things and go, I think something's wrong or I think this isn't right. And it's
Mhm,
hard because I did go to my family in certain ways, but you also don't want them to look like a jerk, right?
mhm. Yeah.
That's hard. I don't want my mom and dad or my siblings to think, well, he's a terrible person. But I have to tell you that my siblings were the ones who saw that there
Mhm,
was something wrong because
mhm.
they could tell. And it was right at the end. We had already said we were getting a divorce, so but they knew something was wrong. It was so interesting.
Yeah.
But
Some
even to
people,
the last minute, I tried to hide it, you know.
yeah. And there's gonna be people who know. And the thing
Yeah.
about when people know, those are the ones that they fight the hardest to keep out of your life. Like
Yes.
I remember when I was in my situation, I remember I'm not going to say the event, but I had this
Okay.
party. I'd invited some friends and my ex was there and one of my
Okay.
girlfriends came and she comes walking up and she's like, oh, where's your boyfriend? And I was like, oh, that's him right there. And she goes over and then she comes back. She's like, girl, run as fast as you can. She's like, this guy is not for you. He's horrible. He's going to abuse you, all this stuff. She's like, I've
Wow.
seen it before. She was like frantic almost. She's like, I've seen it. Get out. And I was just like, no.
Wow. No.
People see it. And I remember I had a good friend who I was very close with her. She was more mature than me, a little like, maybe 10 or 20 years older than me, but more
Okay.
mentor. And she knew and she could see it. And she used to tell me, she's
Wow.
like, sweetie, she's like, I'll let you live your life, but she's like, just know that man ain't no good. And I can see it. And he used to always
Wow.
tell me, like, I don't want you hanging out with her, or why are you inviting her along? Or
Yes.
yeah, so there's people who will be able, because they don't fool everybody. Like the
Yeah.
thing is, like they may fool a majority of people, but that's where it goes back to that intuition thing. Like sometimes, like I say, energy doesn't lie. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like we're kids and like animals, they know right
Yes.
away when something is good or bad.
Yeah.
That's how I've learned over the years to just trust that intuition. Because sometimes, like I'll see a person, I'm like, something is not sitting right with me about this person. And then, nowadays, rather than stick around and find out, I just go, check this person off the list lately. I can't talk to you anymore. And then years later, people are like, this person's so dark and evil. I'm like,
I knew it. Well, can we talk a little bit about that? Can we talk about, you'll have to say what you told me beforehand about how many first dates you've been on, but
oh.
so yeah, because I want
There's
to
a
talk
lot of
about,
guys out there who are I call it narcolicious.
but this is the thing. This is why I'm nowhere near dating. Like God's going to have to literally throw somebody at me
Mhm,
because, but there's the hard part is when you hear about love bombing, okay?
mhm,
Right? And they're all the things that you hear about on love bombing, they sound great.
mhm.
There's nothing wrong with them except they are red flags in a way. So let's
It's a
talk
red
about
flag.
yeah, so let's talk about why they're red flags because if somebody's like texting you and wanting to spend time with you and all that kind of stuff, like it's not a bad thing, but I
It's
don't
not
know.
a bad thing initially, but there's a few reasons why they do that. They love bombing you and invading your space and constantly showering you with texts and gifts and flowers. That's a violation of boundaries. First of all, you
Okay.
don't know that person like that to even have feelings like that. And so
Okay.
they usually start off with it first to develop a quick relationship with you. They shower you with all these attentions and essentially they're grooming you to get you used to having all this attention from them.
Okay.
And then they slowly start to pull back. This is common tactic that they do. So once they have you hooked and you're expecting them and like, oh, I know they're gonna call me at 7.
Yeah.
And they have you right in their hand. So
Right.
now that they know that they have you, then they'll start slowly pulling back. Oh, I'm sorry, I was late at work, or
Well,
oh,
I
this
want to I want to
went
talk
wrong.
about that because you went over it a little fast, but I want to talk about it what that looks like because that's how they know they have you is that
Mhm.
they say I'm going to call you at a certain time. This is just an example, and then they don't. But you were waiting by the phone and they know you were because later on when they call you and they say, I'm so sorry I was working late or whatever the thing is. And you say, well, I was waiting by the phone. Now they know. Okay. So now when I tell her I'm going to do something and she's there waiting, now I have her in my control. I mean, that's not the only way,
Yeah.
but that's one of the ways they start figuring it out. This is why they're smart and they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, and they're trying to figure out what it is, like your love language. Is it words
Yes.
of affirmation? Is it gifts? Is it, compliments? Is it
Yes.
time? They're going to figure it out quickly and give you a huge dose of whatever it is that you're lacking in your life. That's why knowing yourself and knowing yourself well is very important.
Yes.
If a guy comes like me, for example, if a guy tries, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you a toxic trait because I know when they're love bombing me and I'll let them love bomb me too. I'm like, buy me a gift, buy me this. Actually, I need a new air fryer.
You're so bad.
But I know that the value is going to come as soon as I'm like, all right, time to jump ship. Oh, phone dead. Don't work. Sorry.
That's
Like,
hilarious.
I know in the back of my head, I was like, I think he's love bombing me. But I was like, girl, get the gifts, get the gifts.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
Sure
Oh my
enough, he
gosh.
was love bombing me, but now I look at the situation, I look back, I was like, you know what? At least I got a lot of good stuff out of it. Like, I'm not sad. I'm like, I got a new purse, I got some shoes. Like,
Well, yeah, because if you go through the whole relationship, you're not gonna get anything.
they're not. If anything, they're gonna take from you. So I
Yes,
mean,
they are.
I hate to say that I'm that type of bad, but I mean, I'm not that bad. But the thing is, like,
But
you know,
that's hilarious. So, I mean, what does it look like for you? You just feel like you're seeing a lot of gifts and stuff. I feel like if they don't have a life outside of you, all of a sudden, like there's nothing else. It's just you all the time, and you're what I've been waiting for. I haven't never been happy until this point. That's love
mhm,
bombing.
it
Like
is love bombing.
that's it. You know, it's
That's
like,
what they do.
and just saying those words, it's like, really, you've never been this happy. I've never been this in love or whatever. You know, those kinds of things. It's like, really,
Yeah,
ever?
and so like you gotta know when when people are blowing smoke up your butt
Yeah,
because like, I mean now that I'm dating again, so let me backtrack. I was single and just I didn't date anybody, completely abstinent 7 years because I was that broken. It took me a
yeah,
long time to recover, to gain a sense of self, and not just like self, but also health. Because like there was different areas of my life I had to rebuild, and it
yeah,
didn't happen at once. It was one by one. First it was like, emotional, then mental, then I was like, okay,
yeah.
now physical and financial now. So now that I'm dating again, I took all those experiences and I literally made a list of like what am I looking for in a partner? Red flags, yellow flags, and green flags. Like red flag is an absolute no.
Okay.
And so, like for me, there's little things that I see, and like especially when you're dealing with NPD, they love the smear campaign. They can't stop with the smear campaign.
Yeah.
You don't even know this person. You meet them. Did you know my teacher from third grade? Like, what
She
is
said,
wrong with
she said I
you?
was terrible or
She's so
whatever.
horrible. Yeah. So if I go
Yeah.
on a date and all they can do is talk about how horrible their last relationships were, I know, okay, she was bad. She was bad. Okay, who's the common denominator? It's
Yeah.
you. And
It's
maybe you were
usually
the bad one.
every ex was crazy or every ex, you know, that kind of thing. I'm sure that's what being said about me, but that's what was being said
Mhm.
about me in front of my face. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so
I'm
for
like,
me, that's a red flag because I look back on a last relationship, and that's one thing that they'll do. They'll tear down another person to build you up. They'll go, oh, my ex was so loud, but you're so quiet and pretty. It's always a comparison.
yeah.
So when I meet someone for the first time and already they're bringing up an ex, I'm like, either you haven't healed yet or you're already trying to work something where you're going to get me
Yeah.
to be in this place where I feel like I got to prove myself, because essentially they want you jumping through hoops. So by
Yes.
even the fact that they're bringing up their ex and going, you're in comparison to that person, it creates this dynamic, this
Yes.
competition that you're
Yes.
in. And now you feel like, oh, I got to show him that I'm amazing. I got to show him
That's
that I'm
exactly
that
it. That's
person.
exactly what I was thinking of when you're like, when they were saying this person, you, my ex was so loud, but you're so quiet or whatever, you know, and you get that in your head, that
Yeah.
comparison. And oh well, I'm just quiet right now, but I'm gonna always be quiet because he likes it, because he just said he likes it, if that's what you want to
Yeah.
do. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we were talking about journaling, and I don't even know where we went from there. It doesn't matter. It's two women talking, so we have gone off multiple tangents and try and keep up. Take notes if you need to. But journaling's important, and I just, because learning how to love yourself, and that's how I did in therapy and prayer and wise friends. But journaling, this sucks, and
Mm-hmm.
this was what was bad, this is what's good in my life, and this is how I'm good. He couldn't see that, and that doesn't matter. I don't have to say like he couldn't see this or whatever, but I had to reprogram my brain on some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that that's really important. Tell me again what you were saying about journaling. What were you journaling about? Just your story, or what were you doing?
A lot of it, okay, so when you're coming out of that type of abuse, and we talked about a little bit, talking to your friends about it.
Yeah,
So when we're, going to this person and that person, we're externalizing, processing externally our emotions with other people, and they're
yeah,
helping us in turn process our emotions back because they're, reflecting back the things we're saying. But journaling is unique because it's a way to put those thoughts down and go, this was this was that, and actually
Yeah.
give it a label. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'll sit with myself and go, what was that you experienced?
Yeah.
Well, this person made me feel X. And then it makes it concrete, like,
Yeah.
wow, they really did this. Like I call it, it's almost like a shit list, like pretty much like,
Seriously.
this
Yeah.
is what you did, and it made me feel like crap, and it was horrible. And once
Yes.
you really like label it and say that was abuse, that was not right, it helps your brain process and go, you know what,
Yes.
it wasn't. And
Yes.
now it's down on paper and I can see it. I wrote that. Your brain is making a connection when you
Yeah.
write it. And so you go, wow, okay. And then, it helps you process those heavy emotions. You're able to get it down. You're able to,
Yeah.
just even clarify. And I even find too, I remember when I was going through the thick of everything, I would journal everything I wanted to say, because I'll be like, my friend, she gets off in an hour and she only gonna have an hour before she got to cook dinner. So literally, so I need to
So that way you don't
tackle my
forget
problem.
anything. You don't forget anything, right?
I was like, let me write down everything. But then I started realizing, like, there was a part of just like processing what I went through, which is so important, because a lot of times, like, we talk about trauma. Trauma is just things in our brain that we haven't processed. It shook
Yeah.
us to our core. Our mind goes, what in the world was that? And because your brain doesn't say, oh, this was verbal abuse, this was this, it
Yeah.
doesn't label it in your brain. Like it doesn't put it in
Yeah.
this file cabinet. So it just stays floating around, messing you
Okay.
up all day until you finally just make it concrete and go, that was abuse. All right. So, all right, it was gaslighting. That was abuse. Now, what am I going to do about it? Am I going
Yeah.
to set a boundary? Am I, am I going to tell them off? Am I going to cut them off? So you get to
Right.
decide what you want to do. But I mean, it's a practice. I'm not saying that like, friends can't help or having
Yeah.
therapists, but it's just something in addition that you can do that really forces you to process your emotions.
I think it's a really good practice. That's one of my favorite practices, is journaling, because I feel like I'm talking, to God, or I'm just getting everything out of that's bothering me. And because nobody's going to see it, I mean, I just feel like people need to have boundaries. Like nobody touch each other's journals. Okay. I
Yeah,
just
don't
remember,
ever read anybody's journal. Like that's the worst thing
no,
you
you
can
can wait
do.
till I'm dead. It's
And
so
speaking
funny.
of like
Yeah.
toxic ex, okay, so my ex stole my journal,
Mm.
like my middle school journal, like with all my childhood crushes and like the weirdest stuff. Like
Yeah.
he
But he
and I
probably
was
thought it was important to you. And
yeah,
so
he
he
thought it was important, so he wanted to keep that. I'm like, yeah, because I'm going back and getting my Harry Potter journal from like 2003.
yes, exactly. Jeez Louise. I mean, it just that kind of stuff is so dumb, but the I know for me, I just remember right when I had a diary when I was little, and I was like, oh, you had a lock on it and everything. Just everybody just stay away from each other's journals and stuff,
Yeah.
because
Oh my
you're
goodness.
nobody's going, you're not posting this or anything. And actually, it's so funny that you brought up the shit list, because I just made a shit list the other day, because I just have a hard time at my brain every once in a while, not anymore, but because I've done a lot of healing. But a few weeks ago, whatever, I was like, why do I still have slight twinges of I miss him?
Hmm.
Why? Because I was with him 33 years. Of course, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
built a whole life together.
yeah, seriously, like we had a whole life. And so I don't want to like deal with that anymore. And this guy who has narcissism, he has NPD diagnosed, and he's on YouTube and everything else. And he said, make your list, ladies, make your list, because if you're still missing him, and he was a whatever, he was a good for nothing, make your
Mhm.
list. And so no one is going to see it. And that was my point, was nobody's seeing this, you're not posting this, no one else needs to know. So I just kind of just started writing, and I typed it
Mhm.
out, but I just started typing, he did this, he did this. And let me tell you, and then it's in my phone as well. So if something comes to mind, I will look at that shit list, because
Mhm.
it reminds my brain, stop it. We don't miss him, and this is why. These are all the reasons why.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very real because like it's not like you didn't have any good moments. It's not like you
Right.
didn't laugh with this person and like
Right.
vacations and things like that. But it's just when you look back overall, you realize even in the midst of those seemingly good moments, there was a twinge of like despair, a
Oh
twinge
yeah.
of them ruining it
Anxiety,
somehow.
always anxiety. I was
Mhm.
anxiety ridden all the time. Like I didn't know what I was going to do wrong next, or
Mhm.
so that was hard, especially for somebody. Well, and then when you said that about the love languages, mine are words of affirmation, which I never got. And it's funny because I changed it at some point, thinking, okay, well, maybe words of affirmation isn't my love language, because he told me he couldn't be bothered for that. And he wanted to do other things. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not. I mean, geez, I just gave myself away, but that's okay. I'm just having a moment here, Paris.
Well, one thing that I realized too with that whole love bombing phase, and this is kind of like the place where I've been now. I've been on the healing, self-love journey.
Yeah.
And really the most important thing for me, just in my life in general, has been self-love and understanding what my weaknesses are. Because
Yeah.
the thing is, when you meet a person who's predatory like that, they're studying you. They're studying you
Yeah.
like a lion going after a gazelle. They're going to figure
Yeah.
out when's the right moment to pounce. And so now, like for me, I had words of affirmation. I was torn down constantly as a child. So I
Yeah.
would always just crave like a compliment. And
Yeah.
so like now when I have guys who date me, like there was one guy I went on the first date and I was like, something is not right about this dude. He's telling me about his wife and his ex-wife and kids. And I'm like, narc, narc, no, no, narc, narc. I get it. But then
Your
he's
narc
like,
meter went off.
it went off. And so like, so this guy, he calls himself love bombing me. You're my amazing, you're the best. And I'm like, I know. And it's not that I'm conceited. It's just that I fill myself up now. You know,
Yes.
before I was so desperate to be loved and somebody please spend some time and words. And now like I wake up and
Yes.
like I write it or I'm in a mirror. I'm like, girl, Paris, you're amazing. You're beautiful. You're
Yes.
this. So that I'm already so full that when someone adds to my, it's just spilling over. I'm like, yeah, I know, drip, drip. Like, it fell over. It's not, it's rolling off my back now. It's not filling me to the point where I'm so desperate and looking at this person as
Yes.
a source. I'm my source. And so like this guy has tried everything in the book. And like the thing is I read it like it's almost like reading like a football play. I'm like, and he's about to do this next. And I already know. And I'm like, and I'm gonna ignore you for a few days. And if you want to love bomb me, my cash app is
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh. I was having this conversation with a couple of girls from divorce care. We went for a walk the other night in the rain. Whoops. I didn't know you're not supposed to do that. But anyway, like we could have got struck by lightning. But anyway, that's here nor there. We're all alive. But we were talking about that because the concept of really loving yourself to the point where you go, it would be an honor for you to date me. I always say I'm a motherfucking catch. That's what I say because it
you
took
gotta know who this is. Like
right. And that's the thing is I don't have time because the old Laura was desperate for love the same way you were saying. I didn't have anything inside and so I needed whatever guy to fill that.
Mhm.
And so I'm not going to walk around going, "Yeah, I know I'm great." But when people are like, "You're so like you," I would be the same way. "You're so great." I know. You know?
Like,
And
I mean, I'll tell that to everybody. If it were you, I'm like, oh,
I know exactly, but there's something about I put post-its on the mirror. Anything I put scriptures. I find a cute I got a cute postcard in the mail the other day. I had a cute quote on it or whatever. Had a really encouraging quote. I don't even know what it was, but I'm like I like this. So anything I put stuff
Mhm.
everywhere because you even if you don't believe it right now, go
Mhm.
out of your way to tell yourself literally I look in the mirror and I go I'm so proud of you that
Mhm.
you did that hard thing today. Like when I used to have to talk to my ex, I'm so proud of you. I know that may sound weird to people, but it fills me because we can talk to ourselves, we can pray for ourselves, we can do all the things that we need. We can do that. That's
Yeah.
we can do that. And it takes a lot of
Yeah.
work, but
It
and that,
takes a lot of work. And I'm a big believer in being whole in and of yourself. When I was younger, I subscribed to the idea that I'm looking for another half to complete my whole. I mean, to
yes.
make me whole. And
Yes.
so like now I realize like, no, I need to be whole. And any person who's coming into my life, they need to be whole because I'm not going to build a man. Like you better come already built.
No.
And
you
then
know?
secondly, like, like you should be adding and complimenting, not, me having to take away or whatever. So
Right.
I just kind of see it as like, in my years of being single, I treated myself the way that I learned now what I want in a relationship is how I treat myself. And
Mhm.
so there were years where I would take myself out on a date on Valentine's Day. Nobody else, just me.
Yes.
I take myself on really nice vacations. Like, I mean, I was traveling all around the world. And
Yeah.
so like now it doesn't impress me. If a guy comes, no, I do that for myself. Okay.
Right.
Because,
Yeah, because I'm taking myself to Europe. I mean,
Mhm.
I have come and
Oh
gone by
yeah.
this
'Cause-
and that kind of thing because he promised me he would, and I really did think, well, that's what I had to do. I had to wait for him or whatever. And so I know there's going to be a lot of healing for the reason that you just said, is
Mhm.
that I know what I can do. And look, do I want somebody by my side? Of course I do. But
Mhm.
I want, like you said, I want to be whole, and
Mhm.
then that next person needs to come in and be whole next to me, and then we're going to complement our lives together. I'm not waiting for him to make me feel better and me making him feel better. I don't want that for the next
Yeah.
time.
Because when you're lacking, and not saying like, because it's a lot of you don't just wake up and become like this. It's you,
Yes.
you hear information and it gets in your side of your head and you think about it and it slowly begins to play out in your reality. You go, wait a minute, this is actually right. I deserve the best. I should be whole.
Yes.
Being whole, I say that because like a lot of us, I mean, nobody comes already built. Like we're all,
Right.
have some sort of trauma or
Right.
things that we've gone through in life. But I say that it's so important to know who you are and, know how to love yourself. Because when you truly love yourself and you
Yeah.
take good care of yourself, you will absolutely not accept anything less. I mean, and
Right.
for me, friends, family, any type of person, any person who's coming in my life and making me feel any way that I wouldn't treat myself, I'm like, you gotta
Yeah.
go because obviously you don't love yourself. And so, I mean, that's the easy way. But the thing is, when another term in narcissism, when you're dealing with people, they love to mirror. So a lot of
Okay.
times, like another thing is too, you can be the most healthy, whole, healed version, but if
Okay.
you're dealing with a narc, they're gonna mirror that. And
Okay.
sometimes too, you just gotta let things play out, but always trust your intuition. Cause I dealt with that. I had a
Yeah.
guy I was dating and he just mirrored my whole personality. I was like, I met this guy, he's into fitness, he loves cats, he loves to swim, and all of it
Oh.
was me. And I'm like, well, of course I love me. And
Yes,
then
exactly. Whoops.
yeah, and so then a little bit of time went off because they can only keep it up for a while. I mean, the mask will eventually slip. And so I started noticing like just, not a consistency in their behavior. Like if I was around, they were doing X, Y, and Z, but as time went on, I was like,
Okay.
you're not really into this, are you? Or they can only
Wow.
go so deep. Like they know
Right.
surface level knowledge of things, but
Yeah.
when you really try to go deep with them, they can't go deep with you because that's not who they are.
Yeah.
So I mean, sometimes like you'll see it over time, but it's just like, trust your intuition with people. Like one thing, it's funny because like I feel like I have like my whole family. I told my dad, I was like, Papa, I'm dating again. And he was like,
Oh.
make sure you do the test. I was like, okay, I will. And so like our test is, we tell each other like if we're gonna date, because he's single,
Okay.
holla, my papa. He's a woman out there, he's a good woman. But we make them mad. And when I say make them mad, like, early within the relationship, I'm gonna piss them off to see how they react.
Yes.
A person, if like, and when I say piss them off, it's usually just something simple. I'll set up a date. I'm so excited to see him. Da, 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 da. And then last minute I'll cancel. Sorry, something suddenly came up just to see how they're gonna react.
Yeah.
If they fly off the handle and how dare you don't respect my time, X, Y, and Z, that's not the person for you because you're already seeing that they don't have patience. They can't even,
Yes. Yeah.
things happen in life.
Yeah.
And so like even just little small, I hate to say that I test people, but someone who's going to share your life, someone that you're going to have in your space,
Mhm.
someone that you're going to build with, you got to be absolutely certain because when you've been through a MPD relationship, it's almost like for every brick that you set, they're throwing the bricks away. They're literally
Yeah.
breaking things down as you're building it. So I mean, I've had my life destroyed. Like, I remember before I met the person, I had a beautiful It's weird because I have everything back that I lost years ago,
That's
but I have like
awesome.
a beautiful like house, and I used to
Yeah.
dream about having kids there, and literally lost everything. When I say I lost everything, this person even like they pawned my car, like they sent it off to a pawn shop or whatever, those not repo,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
tow
The one.
places.
Yeah.
Yeah, cash for cars or whatever. I mean, sold all of my property. I mean, I had nothing. Like
My
when I say I
gosh.
had nothing. So, having lived that experience, I am very, very careful with people, friendships too. Like I have friends around, and I kind of see it as like an onion, or like, like a bullseye with the rings.
Okay.
Some people, I have friends, I'm like, it's given slight MPD, it's given covert narcissist.
Right.
So instead of having them like in my inner circle, like the
Yes.
closest to me, I just keep them at a distance. Like, hey
Right.
girl, see you. Oh, I'm too busy, gotta go. Bye.
I
We
always call
don't
them
have that.
they're not everyone gets to be in your A circle because
Yes.
the A circle is the ones that I think of that get to actually hear your heart, that
Mhm.
you trust, that I share my things, you share your things, and then the rest might have to, they start working their way
Way out.
out
Mhm.
from the center because that's the thing that's important is that not every single person is going to be safe and not every single person has to be your best friend.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's okay to have, look, there's friends you're going to
Yes.
go just to the movies or out to dinner with or something or coffee or something. And then there's those friends who, when you're at your lowest, you can call and say like, this is a crazy time or a terrible time. I wanted to comment um, on the dating thing because so there's a guy I follow, his name is Therapy Jeff on all the socials. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but I'll put a link there in the show notes. He talks about that. He says don't just go on your best behavior date
Mhm.
where you go out to dinner or whatever, right? um Go and do other things.
Mhm.
Go have dates that are involved in different things. And I think he does talk about get into scenarios that could possibly cause an issue so you can see how they react to
Mhm.
the waiter
The
or
waiter, that's number one. Like, how they treat them, how they tip as well. I watch for
oh,
that.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And especially in Las Vegas, such a tipping town, I get that. But yes, there's
You'd
something
be
about
surprised. People in Vegas, it's not always that. But
right.
you can tell, like, if a person wants to stiff the waiter, like,
Yes,
they don't want to tip like what would be considered like a normal gratuitous
right.
amount. Like that kind of shows a lot about their heart towards you.
Okay,
I mean, not heart towards you, but just heart in general. Like this
right,
person, are they selfish? Like, you got to calculate the cost. Like, why, if you are going to go eat, you should expect that you're going to tip. So all of this
right.
should be in your mind. But if this person's been, busting their butt to give you good service and you want to stiff them, then to me, I'm like, they may stiff me in another area of my
Yes,
life. What if
yes,
I'm cooking and cleaning for you, and now you feel that we don't got to go to Paris, or we don't have to,
right,
little things like that
right.
you see in
And he
people.
does talk about, so he talks about, and I wish I could remember all the scenarios, but it just made me think of it when you were talking about that, not just dinner, not just what he calls the best behavior date, where you
Mhm.
guys are on your best behavior, but doing an activity and
Mhm.
then possibly, like you said, that there might be a problem. And so you can see the reaction of that person. How do they handle conflict? How do they handle a big change like that something had to cancel or you got rained out of something or whatever. So wish I could remember. But anyway, I'll put it in the comments. He's really good to follow because he gives really practical advice
I
for
love that.
dating and for toxic relationships and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I would love to check that out. So I'm gonna check that out.
Okay, good. Therapy Jeff.
Yes,
That's
I'm gonna check that out for sure, because I think a lot of what we see, like, we all have experience with toxic relationships, but learning how to date the right way, what healthy looks like, green
yeah,
flags, and even too, like sometimes the person can have all the right flags, but just not be compatible with your
right.
lifestyle, or maybe you just don't have enough in common. So there's so many things to navigate. But I feel like these days, being able to spot those red flags right away,
Yeah.
it will save you so much heartache. Like I think back of a lot of relationships where I saw the red flag in the beginning, and I, overlooked
Yeah.
it, and I look back and I'm like, I shouldn't have.
I shouldn't. Well, and
Yeah.
it's true. I can look back and see the red flags on certain things and go, well, I did that because I did not think very highly of myself, or I needed to be loved, or I, whatever it was, I needed that. And
Mhm.
that's why it's so important to work on ourselves first. And I was having this discussion with the girls from divorce care the other night. I'm like, we got to work on ourselves first. Like, I don't know how long we're doing this. I have no timetable. I thought, after a year I'll be ready. It's been a year. I'm not ready.
Yeah, that's what I thought myself. I'm like, yep, I'm gonna get myself together in a year. I'm gonna be back out there. And that was not the case at all for me.
I'm not ready. I think I might end up being one of those girls that's like talking about my ex on the first date. So
I've been that girl. I've been that when I first started dating, I was just like, am I still even over what I went through? It's been
yes,
so,
exactly.
yeah, I'm still talking about them. I'm the red flag.
Yes, exactly. Oh, you are. It's all sparkly, but it's you. Yeah. Yeah. I
Now
mean,
it's out of my system, though. I got it out. Like,
that's good. That's good to know. So tell me what you're doing now. Where are you at now?
okay, so I feel like I have a lot of irons in the fire. So I'm a life coach. I work with people on holistic lifestyle changes and reaching their goals, and becoming the best version of their self.
Love that.
Also, I have uh I guess like a mentorship group with
Uh-huh.
other artists, entrepreneurs, and service professionals. We come together, we learn, we champion one another, and most importantly, we teach each other skills and create opportunities for each other to expand our reach and put out amazing
Wow.
art that's full of purpose.
That is amazing.
Mhm.
And you're working on a podcast?
Oh yeah, nothing.
I know it's not quite out yet.
Yeah.
It
So
will
right
be by the time this airs, it will be out.
it will be. So right now I'm in the process of filming episodes for my podcast, which is called Enjoying Your Journey. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Like I love the name of this podcast, This Is Where I'm At, because like it took me a long time to get to this place because for many years I was not enjoying my journey. I was
Yeah.
miserable and
Yeah.
sad. And now that I feel like something just finally switched, I'm like, I get it now. Like just let go. And so now it's enjoying my journey, and other people who are just living their lives, like they
Yeah.
may have had some adversities or challenges, but just people who are doing amazing things with their life and truly enjoying their life.
That's so awesome. So you'll have different guests who talk about different things. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll be great. So that's all linked in the show notes.
And
She
I would
put all.
love to have you on.
Oh, I'd love to be
Yes.
there.
I know, I love what you're doing with the podcast and,
Thank
spreading
you.
awareness, because it's something like I almost feel like it's taboo,
Yes.
like for lack of better words, I had someone in my family where they didn't have a voice. They couldn't speak up because they
Yeah.
were terrified because of the abuse that they went through. And
Hmm.
so, being able to speak up in today's age where people just, like just sweep it under the rug or like just take it. And it's not like,
And
no,
it's
I'm not
crazy
taking
to
it.
me that okay, I mean, it's 2023 when we're recording this, but that to me was so surprising. I was surprised at the things that people told me, like, you shouldn't really talk about that. And I'm like, I shouldn't? Why? Like, and so I know I have a night, okay, let me figure out how to say this. There's a difference between calling my ex out and what he did, because believe me, I've done that, but I don't need to. What I need to do right now is to warn other people in this world, not about him necessarily, though. Hello, his
Mhm.
upcoming wife, um, is that we are not alone. And there's people out there, because unfortunately, not everyone is going to be self aware. Well, they're self aware in a different way, I guess, but they're not going to be healing mentally from their life trauma.
Mhm.
And so then unfortunately ends up bleeding all over everybody, because hurt people will hurt people, you
Yeah.
know. And we have
Yeah.
that's why we have to be strong and love ourselves and all that. I worry about people who are just like, they don't even love themselves. Like, it's not a bad thing to love yourself.
It's not like you gotta live with you for your whole life. Like, how are you not gonna love yourself? Like,
Right. And what does that look like? And I know that it's hard because there's lots of, even we didn't even talk about like where else there are many toxic relationships. But look, take this information and use it. There are people at work sitting next to you. There are people in your family, take some of these skills and just really
Mhm.
and use it in your life. No, not everyone in your life is a narcissist, but we all have people in our life maybe that are want to take advantage of our boundaries and things like that.
Yeah,
Because when you start setting boundaries, people like go, "Wait a second, there, don't
yeah.
do that."
Well, it's
Don't do.
almost like knowing the signs of a heart attack. Like it may not apply to you, but it's good to know because if you
Yes.
see someone else having one, then you can actually help them and you can identify like, oh, this person's in serious trouble. And so
Yes.
like, when I say NPD abuse, like it's so it's not just like, oh, I got hit or what. No,
Right.
it's like all the abuses combined into one. And
Yeah.
speaking about it, it's so important because
Yeah.
so many people suffer in silence. And
That's
then
it.
even with this, like they're still updating the DSM-5 to include
Yep.
more information about this type of mental disorder. And not only that, like if you look back about, maybe even 15 years ago, people were not talking about NPD like how they're doing now.
No.
There's this woman that I'm aware of, I followed for quite some time. It's called, I think it's One Woman's Battle. Her
Okay.
name is Tina Sweden or something like that.
Okay.
But she, like years ago, she started a blog talking about her abuse with her husband and what she went
Wow.
through. And then, somehow her blog went viral. And it was during a time where people didn't know what it was.
Right.
People weren't talking about it. I mean, it got so big. I believe Denise Richards, she found out about the blog and she was being abused and she didn't know what it was until she came across
Wow.
that other woman's blog. So you never know who it's going to reach. You never know who's going to hear
Right.
your voice, and the light bulbs are going to go off and they're going to be able to create a plan and get the help that they need.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, it's just people are ignorant of abuse, in my opinion. Like, there's so many types of abuse. Like, there's so many, like, even, I have like dating, like one thing I can't stand is ghosting because it's a form of abuse. It's,
Yes. Yeah.
it's mental abuse to ghost someone,
Yeah.
to just flat out cut off communication. I know we live in, oh, do what you want. Yeah, but at least be adult enough to say, hey, it's not working. Instead of leaving this person in a space
Right.
where they're constantly beating themselves up for months on end, wondering why.
What happened?
So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that was the only time I ever even set up a date on an app. And the guy was like, "Oh, yeah, I have to reschedule." And I was like, "Okay." And then he totally like left the entire chat and everything. It's like,
Yeah, and it's like, hello, are you alive? Like,
well,
me,
it's
he
like
must
you
have
could
died.
he could have just said, "Hey, I'm not interested." But and so what this tells me is you don't have the balls enough to just say, "Hey, I'm not interested after all," or whatever. It's like, and so I wouldn't want to be with anybody who you can't even say, and that's
Communicate.
why I know I'm not ready because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna like criticize everybody and my narc alert's gonna go off and whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
With dating these days, it's like I talked to some of my girlfriends, they're like, I can't do it. It's like a full-time job. I'm like, I know, girl, you just gotta prioritize it. Like,
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And so that's why when I'm ready, I will do it because then I know I have to prioritize it. But I'm so not ready that I don't even want to. Like, I barely want to. I'm like filling out a
girl,
profile
just
going,
enjoy yourself. Like, I'm in a
I
place of like, do I
am.
even want to date or do I just want to be single and travel for the rest of my life and like not worry about any dude babysitting him, cleaning up his mess, being his mom, like
Right. Yeah, that's why we have to.
raising a third, like another grown child. Like, I'm okay. I'm not saying all are, but man, the way guys are these days, like it's an interesting dynamic out there for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, there's definitely issues, and I hope that as mental health awareness is more and more, out there with even men, that the stigma is going down.
Mhm.
I'm hoping, that men actually go to counseling and stuff like that because I just, it's
Some
too
of them
long.
are
Well, we could,
doubling down. There's this term called passport bros.
okay,
Women are getting tired of the subpar treatment and they're not dating or they're just not accepting. So
okay,
these same guys, instead of working on themselves and getting therapy, they're going overseas and marrying women because they're submissive. So I mean, it's just like
wow,
the broken
yeah,
dichotomy. I
yeah,
think it takes two like healthy male friends. Like I know some
yeah,
healthy males and like standing up and saying like, hey bro, that wasn't okay, you shouldn't,
yeah,
or just not supporting toxic behavior,
right,
like there's just certain things that we shouldn't be doing to each other. Like if you want it done to you, then don't do it to other people. And
right,
I just find that in relationships, like so many people they want their needs met without meeting the other person's needs or having concern for the other person's standards or expectations.
Yeah.
So, you just have to stick by, have strong boundaries and,
Yeah.
not be afraid to stand alone. Like I have guys, well, you're going to miss out and I was going to do this and take, I'm like, I don't need you. Like I have all my own stuff. Like I have my,
Right.
like,
I just
and I've been living all these years without you and I'll be fine.
right. Well, that's the thing, and that could have worked before, right? And that could have worked before. Oh yeah, I will be missing out. Oh no, that kind of thing.
Oh
But
yeah, it used to work before.
right,
It did.
exactly. And so that's why we have to keep working on ourselves, not to be, and then this is, I haven't said this very many times, but not to be man haters, because I'm not a man hater in any way, shape, or form. I just want to be around healthy men. I want to have a
Yeah.
healthy man, and that's the thing is, and that is not a bad thing to want to go work on your mental health and just, do better and make, because that's what I'm doing. I'm just working on myself, and not just loving myself, but working on all the stuff that's coming up, because man, there's a reason why I've chosen all the guys that I've chosen. There's a reason. So I'm working on all that. So, oh my gosh. Well, this was good. We could probably make an entire day's workshop out of this.
We could. We keep going on, and I'm like, I have more terms up my
I
sleeve.
know. There's more.
Yeah.
Well, and then, maybe we'll do another episode, or maybe we'll do like a short episode, a mini-sode, where we can throw some other stuff in there, so
Mhm.
some tips and stuff. So Paris, thank you so much for
It was so
being
great chatting with
here.
you, Laura.
Yeah, it
I
just
love this.
okay, good. I do too. I really do love talking about this stuff, because I felt alone for so long. I was so sad and so alone for so long, because I didn't know that there was something wrong, and I didn't want to, I didn't have the support, and I just felt like a naggy wife. You know what I mean? Like that's all. But now I know, hey, there were some red flags there, So now I know better, and now I can help other women to,
Mhm.
you know, that's the whole point. That's what I want. I want other women to, be safe and,
I mean, it looks well on you. Like you're so poised as you're
oh,
like
thank you.
like you really you are. Like I mean, I've talked to so many women. I've actually had the privilege of coaching quite a few women
Yeah.
through MPD abuse, and I mean the way you're handling it, so poised,
Aw.
articulate. Able to articulate what you went through, your emotions. Because a lot of times it's like like, and then it all started when I was born, and then like
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't come out right because you're still making sense of it. So.
Yeah.
I
And
appreciate what you're
it
doing.
doesn't, oh yeah. I've been processing that. But the thing is that I'm journaling, I'm in therapy, and I'm also doing like a holistic kind of therapy, and I do meditation, I do prayer and everything, because I just have to, that's how I am. Sometimes my friends are like, "Hey, you can just relax," but I'm like, I don't feel like I can relax, because I
Mhm.
have 56 years of this, and now I'm starting to see like where it
Yes.
started and why I'm doing it. And so, well, thank you for saying that. I don't always feel poised, and I sometimes cry into my pillow, but that's okay. I am a human being. I'm
You're
not a
back now.
robot.
But I would say this, make healing your
Yeah.
priority. Like when I was, I'm still healing. I'm not all the way there. Nobody is. Like we
No.
don't
No.
arrive. But when I was in the thick of my healing, it was a job. I treated it like a job. Like I'm
Yes.
not missing this. I
No.
scheduled my life around going to therapy, making sure I was
Yes.
in the gym, getting everything together because when you've been through years of abuse, it doesn't just go away overnight. You got to prioritize
Right.
becoming healthy. And, the thing is, like, we don't like feeling bad, but at the same time, it's like it takes some work to undo those layers,
Right.
the depression and anxiety, all those things that make
All
us feel
those
bad, all
things.
those thoughts, like it's possible to live a good life, but we just have to make it like the same way, we make I don't know, Starbucks a priority, Amazon a priority.
Right.
We got to make our
Exactly.
healing a priority
Yeah.
because we live with ourselves our entire lives. Like you got to be in this body. Like if you have to spend 24 hours 7 days a week
Yeah.
somewhere, it's inside of you. Like when do you want it to be nice and like comfortable? And
Right.
like, I
Well,
live here.
but that's gonna, you know what, that's gonna take work to even, because I know from talking to some people who are not as far on the journey as I am. And that to me is such a
does.
trip. I'm sorry.
It does. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie and say like this is something easy that you just
No, and that's the thing, is that they don't even know if they're worth
Mhm.
making themselves a priority for, because there's been too many years of abuse. And thankfully, I've been in counseling for about 7 years. And
Mhm.
so I always say I therapied my way out of my marriage, because
Mhm.
at some point I woke up and go, oh crap, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like, and so I was starting to get my self-worth and all that, though I was still dealing with the narcissism and gaslighting and allowing that to continue. I just finally was like, "Oh, no, I'm not living like this anymore." You know what I mean? But that takes a priority to say, "I am worth doing that." I'm telling you, put those things up on your mirror, tell yourself you're beautiful, tell yourself all the things that no one told you, or the things that if somebody told you you're dumb, tell yourself the opposite. You are
Mhm.
smart. You did a
Yeah.
great job on that thing today. You have really good skills. I mean,
Mhm.
really, love yourself because it's worth it.
It really is. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's like I remember not having self-worth, but I remember getting to a place and thinking, I'm not worth that though. I
Yeah.
may not have a lot of self-worth
Yeah.
for myself, but I'm at least worth better than the scum off of somebody's shoe. And
Yeah.
that's what you threw me on the ground like I was literally like a sack of potatoes.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
worth more than that.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like once you find what you're worth more than, then that's when
Yes.
you begin to go, you know what, I'm worth a lot more than this.
Yeah.
And it's baby steps. Like once you go, I'm worth going to school, or I'm worth, going to therapy.
Yeah.
And once you get in there and you go, oh wow, I did it, and go, okay, well, I'm worth a little bit more. Now I'm worth this. And,
Yes. You
self
really do have to talk to yourself,
you
and
got to
put
build it
yourself
over
first.
time. Like
You
you
do.
build it. Like I have a friend right now and she's at that place of like enough. Like I've had enough. Like I don't
Yeah.
deserve this. I don't, and I see the long, it's going to be a long, it's a long road, but it's
Yeah.
worth it.
It
And
is
when you
worth it.
prioritize it, you just never know. Sometimes things happen, things speed up. Like, you're not always going to be in that place. Like I thought my whole entire life was going to be like, oh, I'm the victim. But now I'm like, you know what? F you,
Mhm.
like you're not even
Right.
my thoughts anymore, my breath, like
Right.
yeah, like you
It's
just
amazing how you change, I mean, just in the year, it hasn't even been a year, and it's just been an amazing, but I have made it a priority because I didn't want to live one more day sad, because he was still controlling my emotions, even though
Mhm.
we haven't been together. And I always say, like you were saying, you have to say the things. I was telling one girl, say the things. I may be alone, but he's no longer hitting me, or whatever it was that he was doing, because other people have gone through different things. And I look at my pillow sometimes and I go, what's worse than being alone? Being in that marriage. And I just say it out loud to who? My cat. I say it to my cat, because that's the point, to remind me I was never lonelier than I was in my marriage.
Mhm.
And so looking at an empty pillow, people are like, "Are you sad?" Oh, God, no. Because I was you don't know what it's like to lay next to somebody who doesn't even care if you're alive or dead. Like,
Mhm.
he didn't care. He just wanted me gone so he could go
Yeah.
on to the next one. And I don't care. That might sound harsh to people, but it's true. And sorry for everyone who,
Because you care too much. Like I've already like what was I say? I've already given away all my fucks. Like I have no more fucks to give. It's over.
that's right. I happen to have two zero fucks given journals in my Amazon shop, and they already heard the commercial for the journals.
That's so awesome.
I do. Somebody commented and said that wasn't very nice, and I'm like, it's pretty funny.
It's funny. Yeah, I didn't
Sorry.
even have that journal, so
Yeah. So
plug, insert plug for the journal.
that's right. Oh yeah, there's a commercial. Yeah, you'll hear a commercial during the podcast. So, okay, my friend. See, we could have gone on longer.
We'll have to do this.
That's right. All right. Well, Paris, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And if anything resonated with you today, please go to social media. We'll have a picture of Paris up there, and just comment. That's right. And just comment on comment. You can also go to our YouTube and see us live. Wow, it's so exciting. But you can see us recording. But, ask any questions, please subscribe, please follow, please share. And if anything resonated with you, we will have all the links in the show notes. And I always put stuff for domestic violence and journals and all that kind of stuff. So, and anything Paris has mentioned today. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you guys next time.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.